I have the footage saved on a USB drive I keep in my glove compartment. I worked overnight security at a distribution warehouse in Joliet. 3-person crew, me, Derek on the south gate, and a supervisor named Val who mostly stayed in the office. I handled the interior, 12-hour shifts from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., 60 cameras, 4 floors. Most nights I just watched monitors and did walking rounds every 2 hours. The building was from the 50s, concrete and steel. They stored industrial parts for manufacturing plants across the Midwest. Forklifts ran during the day. At night it was quiet except for the compressors and dock doors settling. The first time I noticed it was October 16th. I was reviewing footage from the previous night because Val said someone had reported a door left unsecured on the 3rd floor. I pulled up camera 11, which covered the northeast stairwell. At 2:14 a.m., the stairwell door opened. No one came through. The door just opened, stayed open for 11 seconds, then closed. I watched it 3 times. The motion sensor logged it, the timestamp was clear, but no one was there. I checked the other cameras for that time frame. Nothing, no one on that floor. Derek was at the south gate. Val was in the office. I was on the 1st floor doing my round. I wrote it off as a mechanical issue. 3 nights later it happened again. Same camera, same door. This time at 3:08 a.m. I was at the monitors when it happened. I watched it live. The door opened, held for 15 seconds, closed. I radioed Derek, asked if he'd gone inside. He said no. He'd been at his post all night. I went up to check the door. Nothing wrong with it. The handle was tight. The lock worked. I propped my phone against the wall and recorded myself opening and closing it a few times. When I got back to the office, I compared my recording to the footage. In my video, you could see my hand, my arm, my body. In the footage from camera 11, you just saw the door. I didn't mention it to Val. On October 23rd, camera 3, which faced the loading dock, picked up something at 12:47 a.m. I was doing my midnight round on the 2nd floor. When I got back to the monitors, I saw the playback. A figure had walked across the dock left to right, in full view for maybe 6 seconds. I froze the frame. It looked like a man in a coat, hands in pockets, normal stride. We had motion-activated floodlights on the dock. They hadn't triggered. I checked the other dock cameras. Cameras 2 and 4 showed nothing. Camera 3 had the figure. Just camera 3. I radioed Derek. He hadn't seen anyone. I went down to the dock. The personnel door was locked from the inside. The bay doors were down. No footprints. It had rained earlier and the concrete was still wet near the drains, but there were no prints. I filed an incident report and clipped the footage. Val watched it the next day. She said it was probably a glitch. Compression artifact. Digital noise. She told me not to worry about it unless I saw someone in person. I started keeping a log. Every time the door on camera 11 opened by itself, I wrote it down. It happened 11 times over the next 2 weeks. Always between midnight and 4 a.m. Always the same duration, 10 to 20 seconds. On November 4th, I was on the 3rd floor near that stairwell. It was 1:36 a.m. I was standing maybe 15 feet from the door, checking an electrical panel. The door didn't open. I stood there for 5 minutes. It stayed closed. When I got back to the monitors, I pulled up the footage. At 1:36, the door opened. I wasn't visible in the frame, but I should have been. The angle covered the hallway where I'd been standing. In the footage, the hallway was empty. The door opened and closed like it always did. I was there. I saw it stay closed. The camera showed it opening. I didn't write that one down. The night of November 9th, I was doing my 2 a.m. round, 4th floor. Camera 16 covered the main aisle between the racking. I walked down T, same route I always took. When I got back to the office, I checked the footage. The timestamp showed me walking the aisle at 2:04 a.m. But in the playback, I stopped halfway down. Just stopped. I stood there for 30 seconds, facing the camera. Then I turned and walked back the way I'd come. I didn't stop. I walked the full aisle. I remember it clearly. I had my flashlight on. I was checking the fire extinguisher mounts. I didn't stop. In the footage, I stopped. I stood still. I stared at the camera. I asked Derek if he wanted to pull a double and cover my shift the next night. He said no. I called in sick. Val texted me asking if I was coming back. I didn't answer for 3 days. When I did go back, I went straight to the server room and pulled the drives for cameras 3, 11, and 16. I told Val there was a malfunction and I was sending them to the vendor. She signed off on it. I never sent them. I copied the files and kept the drives. I put in my 2 weeks the following Monday. Val asked why. I said I'd gotten a better offer. She didn't push. Before I left, I did one last review of the footage. I went back to November 9th. Camera 16. I watched myself walk into frame at 2:04 a.m. I watched myself stop. I watched myself stand there. And then I noticed something I'd missed before. When I turned around in the footage, when I walked back the way I'd come, my face was wrong. It wasn't wrong in an obvious way, it was still my face. But the expression was off. The eyes didn't blink right. The mouth was too still. I zoomed in as far as the resolution would allow. The figure in the footage looked at the camera one more time before walking out of frame. It smiled. I've worked 3 different jobs since then. I don't do overnight shifts anymore.